All right, and we are back with our final run of the night. Welcome. Thank you so much, RPG Limit Break, for that raid. We super appreciate it. Give them a follow. RPG Limit Break is fantastic. We love them. Just tons of awesome content over there. And speaking of awesome content, we are here with AntiAaron and Hardcore Uprising, but Blindfolded Rising Sayori. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to AntiAaron and Phantomire.
Well, you are in for quite a treat here.
Yes.
It's going to be quite an intense run. I'm the Phantomire. I'll be doing the commentary for this run. I also run this game, except for that I usually run it while watching the game. Aaron has decided to take it to a whole new level here, and he's going to be absolutely dominating this game while not seeing it. So.
For a year straight, I've been speedrunning this game.
So
and hopefully I can hit your strat blindfold.
Yeah, we'll give it a try. And if you don't have anything else to say, then we will jump into the run and do the countdown on in.
I'll do the count. You'll just see the three things start because my mic didn't turn everything off. The clock is going to start as soon as I hit enter at the go.
Sounds
so
good.
I'll see you on the other side. Well, I will feel my way through the other side.
Best of luck. We're all cheering for you.
Let's go. And there we got that deep breath in. We're ready to go and ready to crush this run. For those who don't know, this is actually something where Aaron's just gonna get started in just a moment here, and then I'll jump right into the comms. Just getting his blindfold on. Okay, now we're started. Okay, so for those who don't know, this is actually a canonical Contra entry. It does follow the events of Contra Hardcore. So for those familiar with the Genesis version, this is in your wheelhouse here in certain ways. But things are a lot different here, because if you hadn't noticed, the graphics and everything like that are a lot different from before, and that's because this is an Arc System Works game. So if you're a Guilty Gear fan and you like rockin' tunes and that type of animation and everything, that's what you're going to be getting throughout this run. And the special thing about this is that Aaron is going to be, like I've said before, like he's mentioned, going to be doing this all blindfolded. So a lot of what's going to be going down is he's going to be using certain audio cues to be able to tell when it is that he's going to be having to switch up strats and do certain things, like when he starts hearing certain clanking and things like that, or like one-ups or getting shot, or when he starts doing bonking or not hearing progress. Some of the times that's definitely a component of it. Other times he's going to be doing this where you're going to hear like different buffer strats where he's going to be on things and do X amount of dashes throughout the air, and he's going to be doing a certain amount of jumps. And yeah, it's definitely blindfolded. I am watching him with a close eye to make sure that it is that we're doing this legit. I've seen him do this run a few times before, and it's when he said he was first going to start doing it, it wasn't that I didn't believe him. I was a bit surprised. It's like, is this even viable? But then started seeing some of the strats and kind of thought about it more, and it's like, no, it definitely is. One of the things that's actually really cool about it is that playing, the big caveat to this, and the reason that this is possible, is that he's playing in what's called Rising mode. If you've played this game before, it is a really, really brutal game in the arcade mode, but thankfully Rising mode exists, and what they allowed for are character upgrades. So basically he has like a turbo button, extra damage, extra dashes, jumps in the air, like all sorts of things like that where you're able to upgrade, which makes a substantial difference in the sort of comfort with the game. And then it allows him to do certain things like this. Like he will know by the sound cues of when things get chomped and when it tells you to jump, how many dashes am I supposed to do? How many jumps am I supposed to do? And so now he might not have an exact idea as to where it is that he is with relation to the boss, but he should have a general idea of where he is. And if he doesn't right now, once he gets bonked or starts exactly slashing like that, then he'll start to know. Like now, since this boss always starts in the middle, he knows that once he's lined up here, he can just do these slashes upwards and he's going to be able to take this boss out and then just start running away. So there will be strats like that where you're able to do some of these things blindfolded, and it's kind of a similar thing to how a lot of blindfolded runs work, where it's just a matter of how can we do these things to be able to orient ourselves in a certain way. Like after you play the game enough, you're able to start understanding certain sound cues and certain buffers and everything like that. So that's a large part of this. And thankfully there are certain parts where like auto scrollers and stuff like that kind of take care of some of it. But as you'll see later in the run, auto scrollers also become one of the biggest colossal pains. There are a lot of tricky parts in this game, and surprisingly a lot of the time the bosses aren't going to be one of them. That was a nice helicopter grab. He has no way of knowing where he is with respect to the helicopter. So the fact that it is that he grabbed that right off the bat was really impressive. And then there are going to be other parts where it's just, again, he's going to be bouncing off of certain enemies and doing certain things where it's just, he's going to be taking guesses. And so reorienting can make things kind of difficult there, but he's handling that quite well. A part of it is because he has this dash move there where, depending on what controller you're using, I think it's this circle button or the A button. No, sorry, B button on an Xbox controller, where you're able to kind of do this dash through things, and that's why he's able to do what he's doing. And if he spams that during the right spots, then he's able to avoid a lot of the enemies and just use those iframes. But he has to be running while doing it, otherwise he'll do the that's kind of parry attack that it was that he was doing there. And then other times he'll be switching to his just dashing and slashing and just hoping that nothing retaliates. But he's handling this this quite well. Like I said, there are going to be some of the other parts of the stages where things get really, really scary. One of the things he mentioned here is we're actually lining up to the mini boss of this stage. It was he's hoping to line up and get a quick kill that it is that myself and Slurpee Ninja accidentally developed when we were running this game. Were you able to jump onto this helicopter at the start, and he got it. Able to get an early kill on this thing, which makes a substantial difference. Which again, there are buffers there. He can use the sound cues of the mini bosses and how many jumps and dashes he has, and he's able to line that up the way that he is. The boss of this stage, however, is interesting. Because he can actually do it where he kills it right off the bat and not have to do anything, because the start of the fight is the same each time. However, if he doesn't, this boss can go anywhere, and he's just gonna have to hope that it teleports next to him. So I can see the little bit of a sigh there, because he knows what he's in for. I'm sure he'll do quite well. Like I said, there are certain safeties with the rising mode, with the extra damage and the turbo kind of mode that it is that you have. So now he's just going to be slashing and launching shots in different directions and hope that it is that this thing comes back to him. Now let's just hope that RNG is in his favor. the nice thing is that he can kind of just run around the map, because like the standard arcade mode, like there's not a lot of flexibility in terms of taking deaths and hits and everything like that, because he has an extended health bar. There, I think 573 continues, and he has 30 lives by default. He can afford to take some losses here and then. But yeah, he's just gonna have to run around and hope that it is that he hits him. This is where it is that blindfolded runs get really tricky. I'm sure that some people have seen some of like the legendary stuff with like Super Mario 64, and those types of runs. The big challenge with a game like this, and say when I routed Contra Hardcore, is that it's just there are certain spots where you just hope you get lucky. And unfortunately, that boss was just giving him the business there. But he still recovered quite well and is in still a very, very good position here. Like he's doing an impressive job, as I'm sure anyone who is, trying to do a blindfolded run of a Contra game would be doing. Like this is still a really, really impressive pace here.
It really,
So we can keep this up.
it really is. Like Phantom Myers said, this is a Contra game. One shot and you're dead. Now, granted, there's plenty of lives, plenty continues to kind of keep AntiAaron going here. But I mean, imagine trying to play Super Mario 64, and if you got hit once, that's it. Like,
Yeah, like we're still playing Contra. There are safeties, but there's a limit. Because it is very much a Contra game, and anybody who's played this game on arcade mode has definitely been like brutalized by this game. Like I'm a very much a seasoned veteran of the genre, and when I first started playing this game, I definitely I was humbled very quickly. So
Oh,
the
yes.
fact that he's even
I remember when this came out, and it was just like, I'm like, oh, this looks amazing and beautiful, and it is too, and it has an amazing soundtrack. But if you tried paying attention to that just for a second, this game reminds you that it is out for blood.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you're using the gunners with the little P shot, because that thing is useless. So once you lose your weapons, oh my goodness, you were in pain.
Well, I think that's a good point. Let's Phantom, tell us about Sayori, because she's a DLC character, right?
Yeah, she is a DLC character and the only melee-based character in the game. That's what really makes this possible, since she uses the sword the entire time. The advantage of her is aside from, even in arcade mode, like her sword is really, really strong. But the advantage of it is that you don't have to pick up any weapons or anything like that. So by default, she's really, really strong. The range is obviously a challenge. So there are certain bosses, particularly when you are starting out in Rising mode and you don't have many lives, or you're playing arcade mode, like you don't have much to work with. So the short distances, especially for a newer player of the game, she's very much, forgive the pun here, very much like a double-edged sword kind of thing, because it's just some of the things that make her as powerful as it is, like, also make her really, really difficult to use for newer players. So it makes for a really interesting Contra experience, because we're so used to just running and gunning. So tossing in a complete and total melee character is a really fun way to be able to go about it.
Absolutely. And like, keep in mind too, like it's like, Contra's traditionally run and gun with traps. So on top of all that, he's also using those audio cues to make sure he doesn't get hit by a trap. Like we saw a little beforehand about where he got accidentally put into a spike pit. The game actually moved him out of it, so he was able to reset, get his orientation back, and then continue with the stage. But also, there's a lot of routine repetition, keeping it's like something. If you're just using audio cues, that's super tough. Kind of keeping an internal timer of being like, it's like I should be about here as well. So it's truly, like, this is truly an amazing showcase of skills right now from AntiAaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with like, say, I'm glad that you mentioned the spike pit. One of the big things is he's obviously going to die a lot. Like I think he mentioned that he's gonna aim for 3 continues, but he could do it in less. He can do it in more, regardless. Like regardless of where we fall on the spectrum of continues used, he's going to be able to do this, and it's going to be an incredible accomplishment, especially in this setting.
Yeah.
But because of how many deaths there are going to be, like knowing where it is that you're going to die and what the repercussions of those deaths are important, because certain deaths actually wind up warping you forward. Some of them warp you backwards. Some of them are an advantage. Some of them really set you in a really uncomfortable position. So knowing when those inevitable deaths are and what the repercussions of those are is really important. That comes through somebody who's run it for a year.
Oh yeah.
Like just through sheer experience and just a lot of determination and persistence. But that's what speedrunning's all about right there. When you get your craft and you get your game that you absolutely adore, you'll seemingly stop at nothing to push it. Which I don't know where he's gonna go from here in this game, because like how do you top blindfolded beating the game?
Blindfolded beating a Contra game. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, well, that's a big one on the list. But
yeah, exactly.
Another thing I also want to point out here too is Hardcore has a cool feature where basically you will get you'll get basically score and almost a kind of a currency that you can use to buy characters' special abilities. Like for example, sprinting is actually something that's not in the arcade mode or anything like that. Like when you first play, so you can go through, upgrade your characters, which makes things a lot easier because once again, this game is hard.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why when people consider running this game or even just playing it casually, I often recommend like to get into Rising mode, and because the upgrades that you get are permanent for each of the characters. So it's really nice to be able to just mess around with that. And if you want to mess around with the gunner characters, then you can have it where you get a gunner character and you're able to set it up so that they have maxed of all of their guns, because the guns do actually upgrade in this game. Like when you're playing arcade mode, you can pick up the laser 3 times, and each time you pick up the laser you get an upgraded version of it that does more damage. It's larger, like all that sort of stuff. So it's really cool to be able to have the diversity in it, and I think that the game did really well with being able to allow for that flexibility and the diversity in the way that it is that you want to play the game. And Rising mode really shines in that, because arcade mode, you make a mistake and then it's basically runs dead kind of thing for the most part, unless like you're really, really top tier and have a lot of backups for it. But the Rising mode, there's a ton of flexibility, and it just makes it for such an enjoyable game that unfortunately not as many people latched onto. But it's a really cool title.
Yeah, it really is, because this was something from the back when it was, I believe, this was a 360 release originally, and it was part
360
of the
PS3.
Yep, and it was part of the because I remember this came out on the Xbox Summer Games thing, where they usually had like 4 different games that they were giving out. No, you had to buy them, but there were games that were heavily promoted by Microsoft, and yeah, this was one of them, and rightfully so. Just tip to toe, if you love Contra, arcade mode is going to give you a run for your money. But if you just love the style and want something that is going to be a little easier but have a little work involved, Uprising is pretty perfect for that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at one point, for people who have been PlayStation Plus subscribers for a while, you probably got it free at some point in time. I think that was another one of them. And I'm pretty sure that Microsoft did the same thing at one point. They promoted it 1 month, because I seem to remember all of a sudden runners and people were just like, hey, we should check this out. And it's like, yes, you absolutely should.
Yeah, it was a feature. It was one of the games featured on Games with Gold. I think want to say.
Oh yeah,
late
you're right.
2021.
So that was really cool right there. He got the quick kill. That's really hard to line up in general. The fact that he lined it up without seeing it is really impressive there. Because with that quick kill, that I actually think I also found that one. I don't remember now because Aaron and I started running the game sort of at the same time, and we were both kind of discovering strats and exchanging ideas as we were going along, because the game was run at a pretty high level, but we both saw like, you know what, we can push just a little bit further. So little optimizations like that came up, because otherwise with that mini boss it takes an eternity for it to go into this like whole second phase and everything like that. So that quick kill is really, really nice to get.
Mini bosses are no joke either in this. Like, they will. You're gonna be busy with them.
Yeah, they can just wreck your day. This boss here is where I was talking about before, where the auto scrollers and things like that are definitely not Aaron's friend. He has a general idea, because of playing this boss a number of times, like what to expect in certain spots and line himself up. So now he knows that it's like, okay, I'm in a spot where I'm not getting hit, and I can take out these green things. Taking out those green things is the goal. But once things start moving, or if he doesn't orient himself in the right way, he has no idea where he is, and there's no downed queue, there's no sort of buffer or anything like that, because the map is so huge for him to initially know where he's going. So he just has to like abuse the iframes, abuse how much health it is that he has, and just hope that he gets the remaining green things on this middle core, and then it'll go into the next form. So this just, parts like this really highlight how brutal the blindfold is, because like this where he is right now and what he's doing is not a reflection on his skill in any capacity. It's just there's literally no way for him to be able to know where he is right now. So he's just got to kind of feel his way around and see, it's like, okay, I hit something, is it the right thing? And then kind of go from there.
Yeah, it looks like unfortunately we're in that situation right now where he's just trying to figure out where he's at, and it's a tough situation to be in.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is like he might do it where he tosses out those random shots, like when you hold in your sword and do the shooting for a while, it charges a shot and you can actually launch a long distance attack. But again, like if he doesn't know what direction to launch it in, so all we can do is hope that he eventually finds his way. Like I know that he will, because he's done this a number of times before, but it's always a bit of a guessing game because there's just no reference point. So we'll see what winds up happening. Thankfully, some of the times the deaths are actually in his favor, because then it kind of pushes him certain directions. And right now he's probably figured out that when he did the slashing, that he was slashing the outside ring. So now it's just like, okay, if I move kind of in the center a little bit more, hopefully. Oh, probably heard that cue. Oh no, he heard the cue and then went the wrong direction. My heart goes out to him.
Oh yeah.
So close.
Oh, he was so
no.
close to it. Oh.
Did it again. So it's just like this is where it's like your heart is just like, oh my goodness, because that thing barely has any health either. If he had just slashed slightly in the other direction for like 30 more frames, he would have been there. But he'll get there.
Yep.
This is definitely one of the trickier bosses to line up for the kill.
Absolutely, and I do want to bring this up as well. When AntiAaron filled out the form for this, he actually filled this out on a separate form, and he's labeled this as very risky. And his time estimate was 1 hour and 45 minutes. But it's a blindfolded Contra run, like we keep saying. We can't emphasize enough how hard this game really is. So it's just like this type. So yeah, like this type of situation that he is currently in. Yeah. It's just ultimately the audio cues are going to be his best friend, but they're pretty hard.
Yeah. The nice thing is we'll see, because this is something that's definitely factored. Oh,
Oh,
we
yes,
go.
there we are.
There it
I-
is.
Just
So
the-
now he'll have a much better idea as to where he is and what he needs to do, because these are predictable patterns, and he knows where it's generally going to be and be able to just do his deboost and everything like that. Like now we're back in a comfortable position. There are going to be other moments throughout the run where this does happen. But this was definitely factored in when he did his estimate, and I think his PB is actually like it's around an hour, if not a sub-hour now. So you know, it could wind up being that hour and 40 minutes actually turns into an hour. Like that, this it's still very much a possibility, but like he just said, is blindfolded Contra. Just wrapping your head around the fact that it's like most people can barely beat a Contra game, and he's doing it without looking at it.
Very
good.
impressive.
That last part there, I can't remember who discovered that, but we found out that you could just sit in one spot and just completely obliterate that boss without him touching you, which is really, really nice, because otherwise the deboost and everything like that take just way too long.
And one thing that I wanted to point out too is that unless there's like a certain attack, like a really powerful attack on there, like you saw with that big beam going out, if that hits you, he'll get blown. You get blown back. But most of the time when you die, you resurrect from where you fell down in. So that helps out a lot, because you know some games would just put you at the start of the screen edge, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is definitely another part where there's going to be a tiny bit of guessing, because there are going to be parts like this where he can use the, like, say the gate as a cue to know that, like, okay, he's in this corridor. So now it's like, go back a little bit, run the full time, and then now that I know I'm up against the right wall here, so now just let's go out a tiny bit off to the side, and then I should be able to make it up that corridor. The fact that he didn't get hit is really, really good, because reorienting yourself and taking out those enemies is a colossal pain, so skipping that is really, really nice. So I'm assuming that now, yeah, he knows where he's at there. There are going to be some of these sections here where, again, it's also going to be a tiny bit of the, like, here's a lot of experience, but here's a tiny bit of guessing at the same time. Because once he gets any sort of bonk or anything like that, he's just going to have to hope that his jumps and dashes are going to guide him the right way. Luckily, there are nice spots like that where, since it's such, like, there's these areas where they're like big free roaming things, and because he has the lives to be able to take some of the deaths, he knows that he can take the double jumps and then just keep dashing forward, and it should be able to orient himself in the right spot. So you see buffer strats like that where if he just ran into the room, he wouldn't know where he was with relation to the boss. So if he does the wall climb and the dash, then he knows that he's going to line up to exactly where the boss is. Unfortunately, when he did it, he just did it. Okay, he recognized it. Just had to hop a tiny bit forward there, because otherwise it was just going to be... he's going to be at the mercy of a lot of RNG. That boss, once it sinks into the ground, is absolute total agony, because it can just do anything that it really feels like, and it's just going to be a bunch of random slashing and hoping. This right here is... It's abused with this, and then it's actually even abused with the standard run too, are the death warps, because you can kind of just launch yourself off the edge into the lava, and it's going to warp you generally in an ideal spot, and then you just keep warping, which is really, really cool. But that's exactly like what you were saying before, is just, you know, there's some of the spots where it's like you just kind of got to know when you're going to die and how it's going to work for you. and again, through the experience, he's able to know that kind of stuff.
I like how it's.
Yeah. Sorry.
I do want to say, it's amazing how it's just like, okay, well, you're doing this blindfolded. Here's an escort mission now.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention, because on top of just how the escort mission is here, it's also something where he has to keep this guy alive, so he can't just like abandon him. Or it's just like take him as a death as like a point loss. Like if he dies, I am pretty sure you restart to where you pick him up, if I remember correctly. It's been ages since either of us have made that mistake, so but I'm pretty sure that's what winds up happening. So it's like I just know that you can't abandon him. This is an interesting mission in general, because aside from the escort mission, what you didn't see at the start, because understandably it would be like virtually impossible to do blindfolded, and it would be goofy to do during a speed run, but the first stretch of this mission you can actually do completely stealth. You can take out the cameras and you can hide behind the boxes and everything like that and actually avoid all of the enemies and not fight a single enemy at the start. I think there's like a trophy and an achievement for it, actually. It's really fun to be able to do, but that would be likely more in the casual setting. Like, this is really difficult. I only had the pea shooter. Get me out of here. And the stealth actually is helpful, where we got fully upgraded weapons and we got a sword and we got speed's the name of the game. So we're not doing any of that stuff. So thankfully with this boss here, like, you start off with a little bit of a buffer, because the boss is always going to start above you, and then after that it's going to just be running off to one of the edges, and he'll know if he ran too far. So he's going to be able to do this and kind of line up with some of these both of these arms here. Okay, cool. So you can do that little wiggle there to be able to try and take those out at the same time. It's not easy to do, so the fact that it is that he did that better without looking at it than I sometimes do it watching the screen kind of bugs me a bit. Like I said, that little wiggle can sometimes get tricky, but I'm used to playing the game in co-op, so the health is increased, so it's a little bit tighter to be able to do, but I'm still a little envious and a little jealous there. So this boss here, we just gotta kind of jump and hope. So because, as you can see, it just creates this big maze of a lot of different lightsaber things, and you can't really do anything to stop it. So getting that kill sooner is definitely the way to go. He actually did that really, really well. That very much went in his favor there.
Yeah, it's like, because I don't know, I can't remember because it's been a while since I played this, but I don't think those lightsabers make noises too, so you don't know if you're near one.
Nope, they just do their thing. They're on their own little world, and even if they did make noises, they wouldn't be a proximity thing, so he wouldn't have any idea as to where they are. So yeah, that's a tough spot to be in. This stage, all of them are difficult blindfolded, but this one actually has a lot of safeties, because the auto scroller is actually like on a set limit. So even if it is that you make mistakes and you don't line up and you take some deaths and everything like that, like, you're still going to be able to finish. The only question is not even the first mini boss. The first mini boss, you can actually just wear out the timer and it'll eventually just fall off the track. But the final two bosses, that's where it's like he's going to have to be really careful. He's going to be lining up to get a quick kill where he basically doesn't have to deal with the second last boss of the stage. But the last boss of the stage is something else. So it looks like he's trying to line up here so that he can do these double jumps here to avoid the flames. Unfortunately, he's getting a little too excited and falling off the track at the same time. But it's not a criticism. He can't see the game. So nothing about that is like some sort of a shot where it's like, I can't believe how bad. Like, no, he's the world record holder who's grinded this game for a year. Like, he knows what's up.
Not to mention in an area where you have to be moving back and forth and knowing what you have to shoot ahead of time.
Yeah.
That's tricky.
Yeah, exactly. None of the things where I'm bringing up like, oh yeah, unfortunately that didn't work out, is none of those are criticisms. This part here, he knows, like, because all of these things are set on different set cycles, he knows that it's like, okay, I'll be in this train, and then eventually the bottom train is going to go down, and then he's going to eventually transfer over to that because the top train falls on the bottom train. So, like, he has a general idea of where he needs to be and where he currently is, thankfully. And because all of these enemies are actually on fixed parts of the cycles, he was obviously looking for the second train just a slight bit too soon, but because the train sounds are not distinct from one another, there's no way to really be able to know when it is that the other one's shown up. He just knows that he needs to be on the front, and then he'll be safe because top train takes out the bottom train. And we'll see what winds up happening. It looks like, based on the way that he's going to be taking deaths and doing this stage, there's a very good chance he's going to get through the mini boss, and then we'll see what happens in the last boss. He might take a continue here, but it really depends on how it is that he lines some of these things up. He should be fine though, but thankfully the continue points are actually, they're pretty generous in this game, thankfully. Of all of the things with the brutal difficulty with this game, continue points are surprisingly generous sometimes. So he knows that he missed one, but he doesn't know which one. There we go. Alright, so he's going to be getting to the mini boss pretty shortly here. And then we know that there's going to be that safety continue point. Like I said, the nice thing about this run is that in spite of the brutality, he has like hundreds and hundreds of continues. So if he has to take any deaths and take a continue, like he's going to be fine. And because the continue points, even when you continue on a stage, it'll place you into the actual continue, like a kind of warp point mid stage or some point during the stage. So there won't be any sort of big time loss or anything like that. Okay, so let's hope that he gets this quick kill lined up here. Yeah, it looks like he's in a really good position there. That's why so again, that just shows the power of those buffers with those dashes. Because lining up with the far right screen, doing 2 dashes, and then just doing a quick little tap to walk forward, he's in the perfect position. The big thing is that enemy will shoot out that beam there. In that position, ducking where he is, he doesn't have to worry about the beam hitting him. He doesn't have to worry about the robot hitting him. And then he's able to do the slashes quick enough that the boss is not able to throw the train. And then after the train throwing, like, knowing where you are and what's going on would just be brutal. Thankfully, this boss is a reactive boss, so it's going to be the same way every time. So if you line up your attacks the same way, it's a consistent fight. So consistent and blindfolded are 2 very nice things to have with one another when we're talking about this type of run. The only slightly more difficult part is this part here, and that's because when he spawned in the first time, it spawns him in like right at the top beside the boss. The second part, it doesn't necessarily do that, but after you fall down and die, it will line you up with the top train there after they explode and everything like that. So he's gonna have a general idea as to where things are, and then he can kind of feel his way around depending on whether he's on the left or the right train, and it should line him up with the boss eventually. And he has enough lives that he can do that as well. So that was impressive. So we're about, oh, Yeah, we have 2 more stages now. So I guess we're 3/4 through now. But the two, it's awkward to say because the 2 last stages are the longest stages. So it's like, it's kind of 3/4, but also these are really long and really difficult. So 3/4 ish.
Yeah, you know, the typical Konami game where it's like, all right, last 2 stages, how long are they? Well, if you put them together, they're longer than the previous stages. Oh,
Yeah, exactly. Very, very typical style here. So, luckily there's some of the parts that he's going to be doing here that aren't too bad. Like you're going to be seeing the return of the dodge here, which it's interesting to see the difference in the blindfolded version of the run versus the any percent version of the run. Because if you're running this game while watching it, like that dash is your big time run there. Whereas now he's kind of just using it a few times just to be able to make sure that he knows where he is and can maintain momentum. Because jumping and dashing through that section, aside from being slower, is really difficult to be able to know where it is that you are. That was really well done. My goodness, even runners playing the game, like watching the game, typically can't run it that well. So that was impressive. These elevators here are on a set cycle, thankfully. So he knows that it's going to wind up being that it's like, okay, left, right, both of them stall. I can just sit in this spot. So there are some buffers to be able to know with this, and he can line himself up with walls to be able to set himself up in the right position here. I'll be really interested to see because he found a warp later in the stage. There are actually 3 of them. 2 of them are skipping helicopter mini bosses, and then one of them's a warp with the missile being able to just bypass a door. I don't know how viable, like they're pretty consistent watching the game, but he can technically do them blindfolded, so I'll be curious to see if he pulls them off, because there are ways that he would technically determine where he is, but my goodness, there's obviously a lot of factors to consider. So this highlights here one of the rising upgrades that it is that you get is like when you see him turning blue, he's actually invulnerable during those times. That's actually a technique that you unlock, is just this like jump invulnerability. That's the reason he's able to do that climb. And also the platforms are kind of a lie sometimes. So it looks like you can't go up on the left side, but you actually can just go through those platforms just because. Okay.
right here.
So this would have been one of the potential death warps, but again, lining that up and everything like that, I think technically it would be possible, but yeah. Oof. So what would wind up happening? He found both of the death warps. What happens is, if you jump off the ledge at a certain height and you just drop down straight to your death, what will happen is you will have it where you drop down and then it warps you back up to where it is that the game thinks you should be, and it's actually outside of the helicopter checkpoint, like the sort of reference point to say like, hey, you should spawn a helicopter here. You can't jump over that point, but you can just warp over it. And he had found both of those sometime, I think, in the midst of when he started running the game, or it might have been earlier on. But yeah, they're pretty hefty time saves. This spot here, it's gonna be some kind of trial and error here with the jumps. Thankfully, the dashes, when you dash, you actually can latch on to the missile, and he'll hear that he has latched onto a missile. But you know, that only goes so far. So that right there is him knowing you know, him knowing where it is that deaths can happen and recovering from them, because most players probably wouldn't know where they spawned, and the fact that it is that they now have to go left there. So knowing your checkpoints and where it is that the game's going to send you after a death or a continue is super important. So the fact that it is that he immediately knew that it's like, okay, I'm gonna be running left here to get to these helicopters, just shows, you know, he's really put some substantial effort into this, that it wasn't like a big worry or anything like that. He was immediately reactive to that. Just shows the experience of the runner.
It's worth also pointing out, 43 minutes into the run, blindfolded, first continue.
Yeah, just throwing it out there.
We're just gonna softball pitch that.
Yeah, considering that most of us would still be on the first stage thinking, why on earth?
Why am I doing this? What did I do?
Why did I have this idea? And and unlike most of us, Aaron has executed it. Like it's super cool to be able to see. So that's the warp right there. If he were to have launched to the right, and he could have accidentally done the warp actually, because when he was warping to find doing the dashing to find out where it is that the missiles were, he could have accidentally jumped through the right door there, which would have been pretty cool if he had landed that, because it's a really fun trick. It doesn't save a lot of time, but it's just super awesome. And Chill, thanks for the raid. Welcome on in, Raiders. Hope everybody's doing well. So this here, he's going to be utilizing death warps and the run. I didn't really talk about the run here. You can, if you run from the floor to the wall, you actually start running up the wall for a while, and you can sustain that for quite some time. And then after that, just to be able to make the climb a little bit easier, he did use those iframes and just those jumps. You saw him not chasing the boss immediately. That was deliberate, because otherwise he's just going to get a face full of grenades on repeat. So you kind of want a little bit of space in between you and Leviathan here. And eventually he's doing this in like tiers of chases. I think there's going to be one more. Yeah. And so he's going to slash him a bit. And hopefully, okay, yeah, we're good. And yeah, this part, this is really hard, no matter what. Not seeing it makes it scarier, especially depending on the way that the death warps will wind up being, depending on where he falls on the umbrellas. He knows to do his dashes when he spawns in, so thankfully that actually went really, really well. But it's not like the intuitive thing. You would think, oh, okay, I can just like double jump up and just dash across. That'll get me there. But the problem is that you could bonk into any of the umbrella guys and fall down, and then just keep landing on umbrellas in a perpetual cycle. So it's not as easy and comfortable a buffer as one might initially think. So that was really, really well done, and very much in Aaron's favor there. This boss does the same pattern over and over, and thankfully, because of how much damage it is that you do, he's able to know where he is with respect to the boss. Like, if he didn't line up, say, on that left side kill, he would know that he just has to move over and up until he hears the slashes. And we found that there's an actual audio cue to know when it is that you can actually do more damage with the slashes. The audio kind of like almost like doubles up. So even when he's holding the button and it's slashing the same amount, there are certain spots where it actually seems to just do extra damage, which is definitely vital in certain instances, particularly on the very last boss in the game. So hopefully he continues to get that. This is another one of the bosses where you want to hear those big ol' clanky slashes in the right spots here. Can't remember what his buffers are for this boss because it can be awful. The first little bit here, it's just going to be slashing on up for a while, and then it's just going to be going into the other phase. Oh, okay, that's right. He can just duck. I forget about that sometimes and make that harder than it needs to be. But that just goes to show the power of Sayuri, because if you were a gunner character, you saw a lot of that boss, and if you were playing arcade mode, you were definitely there for a while, especially the first time you've ever done that. The run up and getting there is terrifying. I just like to point out that it's been 48 minutes. He's used one continue, and he's on the last stage of hardcore Uprising.
Right? Yeah.
While not looking at the game. And this is not something where it's just like we're just taking his word on it and everything like that. Like, I'm seeing him.
Right? Like, we have a camera. You're seeing.
And this is and I, like, we would know if this was like some pre-recorded thing or something like that, because you can definitely see the reactions in real time. So it's very much this is happening in a marathon.
It's the real
right
deal.
now.
It's like legitimately like, yeah, we're all just like blown away is like the best way without using additional curse words to emphasize how awesome this is right now.
Yeah, exactly. This part here is actually interesting. The first little bit, he's just going to be doing his likely his slash and dash and kind of thing to be able to line himself up in the certain spots. Thankfully, a lot of the things can just be taken care of that way. He knows once he stops moving or making progress or anything like that, that it's like, oh, okay, I have to make a hop and keep on going. The last stretch is where the pain really ensues. Because the whole thing with this ship coming up here is cycle based. And if you're running the game, that cycle is predictable, and you're able to do certain death warps, and you're able to know where it is that you are, and do a lot of really cool tech throughout this. The death warps in this are especially awesome. He has no idea what cycles he's on, and even say the death warp there that you actually just saw, that was really cool that he did that, but now unfortunately he's stuck. You can run indefinitely, by the way. So the death warp, like say on the electricity that it is that he did, if he lands on the left side of it, he doesn't go on the right spot. If he lands on the right side of it, it warps him where he wants to be. So there are going to be things like that where it's really interesting to see the way that it is that he's going to have to adapt to what's going on and sort of reorient himself. Okay, hopefully. Oh no. Yeah, this is what's really scary about this, because like I said before, one of the mechanics that makes this game actually really comfortable and gives you some really cool instances of tech are when you're able to run up the walls. But unfortunately, that's also his demise right now, because he has no idea when he's just running and when he's running up a wall, because the sound cues are the same for them.
There we go.
Yeah, and then this is just going to be dashing and death warping. It's definitely the way to go. And so hopefully he's going to be able to do the drop down and launch far enough forward. There's going to be just a lot of deaths here. This is the trickiest part right here. Okay, perfect. So thankfully there are certain spots that you can die and you know where it is that you've warped to, and that's when he knew to do the jump and dash there. This boss, however, he's just gonna have to kind of do shot wiggles and slash wiggles and just hope that he's killed the right thing and done the right stuff, because there's no way for him to really know otherwise. The only way that he really knows if he's in a certain spot is if he falls off the edge, because those dashed lines that are on the side are actually the barriers of the arena. So that's his only real audio cue or any sort of cue in any capacity to know I'm in a certain spot. There's no way for him to know whether he's on one of those pistons or which of those two enemies he's killed or where those enemies are. So we're taking advantage of the long range slash and just sort of hoping we get them in the right spot there. And okay, good. He's got one more, and then I can't remember if he has a strat now to set up the quick kill on this last part of the boss. Because what winds up happening is you take out most of these pistons, but you leave one standing so that you can get up onto the roof. And then what winds up happening is you're able to set up a quick kill where you're able to just sit in one spot and kill this boss from the top of the screen completely and totally safe. No, he's not going to be able to do that. So we're going to see how this boss is typically fought. Thankfully, with the turbo slashing, it makes it a little bit more comfortable, but it's still really rough. Because what winds up is you have this boss going back and forth, and he knows that he's going to have to go left, right, and it's always going to be this pattern. But it just keeps getting faster and faster, and even the turbo kill, yeah, that can happen because of just how quickly it goes. So even your quick tapping and changing directions can be too slow. So that's why, particularly when you're playing the game in any percent and not with a blindfold like a madman, you're able to line up just beyond the ceiling and basically take that thing out. There's a way that, because it's going so slowly, when it's doing the back and forth initially, you're actually able to get it where it comes from the left side slowly, and then right when it's about to leave the screen, you actually slash down on it, and then you kind of follow it to the left, and you're able to kill it before it even makes a whole cycle, which is amazing. And one of like the coolest pieces of tech that's been found in this game, that like personally that I really enjoy, that skips a boss that just is agony. Thankfully this boss here, the first form, so long as it is that you do enough damage, he doesn't do anything. The same can't be said about the next two bosses. So we'll see what happens here. There's definitely a chance that he could use another continue here. So we'll see what happens. But thankfully the first form, the pattern is set. So he knows that after this, like, he's going to get the launch of the flame. We're going to see, I think, 3 flames launched into the air. And he should be able to kill it before it does anything. Perfect. But the last form is where things gets really brutal, because he doesn't have ground anymore. And he has the boss that's random, and you're in the sky, and platforms are random, and he's blindfolded. Like, I know that I've said that he's blindfolded a lot, but I would like to emphasize there's no ground. These are random platforms. The boss is random, and he's blindfolded. So in case you're not getting the full picture of the stakes here.
And it's also worth pointing out, he has 4 lives left right now.
Yeah, so we might see the boss again, but I actually just realized from his timer, his PB was actually, he just passed the point of his PB, so that just goes to show, like, how good Aaron is, and how much he's been crushing it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so he's actually lined up for the center kill. He knows that this part is going to be a center kill. And hopefully he gets that last hit. Please. Please, no. Get that last hit in. Oh, no. Okay, so he's got the hit. Okay, but we can't get too excited, so I have a funny story. But we'll see what winds up happening here. Yeah, that had the potential to happen, because the problem is that the platforms are random for a while. The boss takes forever to die, and then eventually what winds up happening is the left side of the stage is the only side that's usable, and then he keeps having to traverse all of those platforms, which he can do with death warps, but he, you know, didn't have enough lives. So he could use death warps and eventually get his ways up to the platforms, but the problem is that at the very end he also has to jump on a helicopter, and because he doesn't know his height with respect to the helicopter, or what platform he's on, or how far away he is from that, he's gonna have to wing it. So there can definitely be some deaths there. And the story I was going to share, since we've kind of already covered this part of the boss, is when I was first learning this game, I wanted to do a no death run in arcade mode, and I got all the way to the end, and then I missed the helicopter.
Oh, no.
I was so gutted that I never tried it again. Because it was like, I did all of the things, and all I needed to do was jump on the helicopter, but instead I'm in a pit. I am deeply sad. I'm never doing this again. Oh, I just, the amount of agony. I stopped playing this game for quite a while after that. Actually, I was really salty.
I know that feeling. All right, chat. Let's channel all that energy for AntiAaron. This is the last fight of the game, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, it is. Last fight, he's just got it. Like, he already had him killed. It's just that he takes forever. Like, he's very theatric about his death. So we got to wait for that death to go, and then after he dies, then he's got to get on that helicopter. So let's hype him up here, because he's almost there. Thankfully, we know like that he's going to wind up on the left side and then the center. It's after that, like, where the platforms and how much damage he's done and everything like that are random. So hopefully he can line this up so he knows he's in the center there. Let's see if we can get this kill here. Get that jump in, please, Aaron, please. There. Okay, so he's got the kill. Like I said, what's going to happen is the platforms are slowly going to stop appearing on the right side, and he's going to be hanging out on the left side of the map. There are going to be certain things that he can do to kind of jump his way around the platforms without seeing them, but there might be some deaths here. We'll see. Okay, so he's got the jumping technique on the far left side there, so he's going to be safe for a while. But he still has to jump on that dreaded helicopter. So once he hears it, then it's going to be a matter of, how high am I? Where is that? Can I actually hit it?
Oh.
So we're going to see, yeah, see, this is where it is. That's like, he could technically use and continue here and have to do it again, because this is brutal. So, oh, he's so close there. He was robbed. There we go. Massive congrats to Aaron.
That, wow.
40 minutes underestimate, no big deal.
No big deal. Oh my god. Chat, please get those GGs in for AntiAaron. Amazing.
Wow.
What a run. What a legend. Let's
that's the
go.
hardest thing. That's the hardest part, man.
I told them, it's just like, when they're starting to get excited about just like, oh, he's got this, it's like, you have no idea about the helicopter. You have no idea.
I was like, okay, don't screw up. You got the quick kill going. You triple jumped instead of double jumped.
I know.
I was
As soon
like-
as I saw the quick kill, it's just like, okay, he's got it. And then as soon as it's like, oh no, no, we're gonna see it again. And but even if you got it, like you could have, the helicopter can doom
I know.
everything.
I was like, well, at least, yeah, because I was like, I know I don't have that many lives left on the first attempt.
Yeah.
I knew that. I don't have that many lives left, so that was a good thing.
Yeah, but you said 3 continues, you got it in 2, so we're
Yeah.
golden.
Because that's usually how long it takes me.
And
Because
40.
when I submitted the hour and 45 estimate, that was after my first run, so I had something to submit to say it can be done.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And then here we go with it just barely over an hour. Because again, emphasizing it,
57? Hey, 57 ain't bad.
blindfolded Contra game during a marathon.
yeah, exactly.
Happy
Like,
I got the I'm happy I grabbed the helicopter in desert because I never get that.
I know, that was clutch. I was so pumped about that. I
I
was
was like, okay, I had a bad start.
very sad about where you got plopped in the stage 4 auto scroller boss, because it's just like there was one point there where you just had like one tiny hit on one of like the last green parts, and it's just like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, I
Yeah,
just need him to move up a tiny bit. Let me yell at you, please.
that boss is the reason why it's like, you sure you want to do blindfold?
Yeah, that was my biggest worry when you said you were gonna do it. It's like, how is he gonna know where he is? Like, he can't.
yeah, exactly.
It's like you can hear the, of the
Yeah.
pieces, but then you got to ask yourself, is that the outside or the inside?
Yeah. If there were a slightly different cue, whether you were on the inside or the outside circle,
I
you
think
would
it
have
kind
been
of screams
golden.
a little bit if it's the inside.
Yeah.
It freaking screams just a little bit, so that's what you got to listen for.
Yeah.
Oh.
That it just, I mean, honestly, it's like, I mean,
And this is a
with
year straight, man. I've been speedrunning this since August 6th of last year. So it's been like a year and a week.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Like, I gotta say, like, Aaron, this was a masterclass in gaming. Like,
I
plain
definitely gotta
simple.
watch this
And
back to hear you guys talk.
oh god, and Phantomire, the comms were just, it's just, this whole thing was just a masterpiece. Like, I'm not using this lightly. What an incredible showcase this was. Oh my god. It's like we were floored. Well done. Well done. Oh man,
It's really nice to come back to this game when I have zero pressure on me.
isn't it?
The only zero pressure you had was to see me actually hit your strat blindfolded.
I know, I was really pumped
God.
about that. As soon as I saw your buffers, I was like, yes, he got it.
It's your strat, of how to get on that helicopter.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so during this whole time, what was the most nerve-wracking part for you, Aaron?
Let's see here. Well, there's the highway boss. That's always the nerve-wracking one. The freaking other one is if I game over, please be in a spot where I'm not that, it's a decent checkpoint. Like if you climb up the tower, I'm like, okay, at least I know where I'm at. And if I do game over, please be after the carousel.
Yeah.
I don't mind fighting the boss again and all that, but please, I don't want to go through the carousel again.
Understandably so.
And please let me get on top in the lab because I don't want a buffer trying to get to that top conveyor belt after the plummet.
Yeah, there were a couple of those spots there where it's just like, because I've run the game before, like I knew that it was just like, oh, he better get this, because reorienting yourself is just like absolutely brutal because you don't
I have a buffer for that. I have the buffer for it because that's where if you look at all of my early runs, that's where I had to say, okay, I give up.
Yeah. Totally understandable.
Because that jump to the top conveyor to get to the freaking pinwheel boss. Yeah, that's why I was like, okay, just do triple jump dash, triple jump dash, triple jump dash. If I hear a scream, I know I killed the guy on the bar.
Oh, yeah. There are plenty of times where we're just like, oh my god, Yeah, no, just amazing. Just an amazing run. Thank you
Oh,
Yeah,
so much.
and chat, yeah, definitely
thank you,
mention.
Phantomire, for being able to
Somebody
do
has to follow this up.
Well,
let's see here. We got about 20 minutes before it's over. You can do a thing of Blazing Chrome quickly.
well, the one thing here is that this was how, Aaron, you were the one who were wrapping up a speedrun Saturday for us on
I
here.
know.
Yeah.
And
I
I
was just
think,
saying of how much of my estimate I have left.
don't worry, because it's like up next. We're actually gonna go ahead and get ourselves together here in a little bit. We're gonna just kind of talk about it and talk about what's going on next. But we are hitting scary times, and by scary time, not just in general, but playing scary video games, I should say. So, both Aaron, Fanto, always a pleasure to have you on here. Thank you so much. Chat, give it up for AntiAaron once more.
Can't wait to watch this back.
Give him a follow, please.
Yep.
All right, then. Well, everyone, stick around. We'll be back here shortly to just kind of talk about today, I think, because today needs to be talked about, honestly.
All right, give us a few. We'll be right back.